Khalil.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me. We're at Red Rock Resort in Las Vegas, and we're at the Lotus of Siam restaurant on their property, and this is probably
Amazing.
this is one of the most beautiful interviews we've ever done.
I will definitely be coming back.
The food is incredible. It's kind of known as like a culinary institution in Las Vegas. Their original location has been around forever. Obviously, we have one in the Red Rock, which is nice and convenient for all of us who live in town.
Absolutely. Super convenient, beautiful. Like I said, thanks for bringing me here, but
Yes.
I definitely want to come back.
Yes, no, we will have food next time for our next
Okay.
interview. But I want to kind of go back to the beginning, Khalil, because I feel like I've known you forever. And it all kind of started around The Ultimate Fighter, season 23, back in 2016. You, from the get-go, have always been yourself. You've always been very open and honest about your story and your emotions. And that was kind of a unique take when a lot of athletes in that position would try and rein things in. You were just really honest about stuff. Why was that the approach from the beginning?
I don't know any different. I really don't know any different. All I can do is be myself and speak my truth and share with everyone my real experiences. I think going into The Ultimate Fighter, that was something that I knew was possible, but I didn't know that it'd be like that soon or that it'd come the way that it did. So whatever emotions I let out in that moment were like the real thing, because my life has been changing moment to moment, especially, being in the UFC and everything that comes with it. So all I can do is just share, hey guys, this is actually what's going on with me, how I feel, and what's going on in my life.
It's always resonated with people. And, looking back on the show now, how do you look at that journey and who you were during that time?
Wow. When I got into The Ultimate Fighter and just even making it into the house, that was a huge moment for me. I felt like I made it. And then fighting in the finale and then getting a UFC contract, I felt like I made it. And this journey has been just so crazy. There's been so many moments where I feel like, okay, I've made it. But I never really knew what that even meant. I think it was just kind of like a thing where I just saw that I was taking steps forward. And that's that feeling that I continue to have. So now being in this position, I just feel like, okay, I'm progressing and I'm happy with the direction of my life.
Progressing, to say the least.
Progressing, yeah.
to very much say the least.
Yeah.
I want to stay on this journey because you've also always been a real cerebral fighter throughout all of this. Is that also something that just came really natural for you?
I think it's something that I had to learn. I think in the beginning, my skills and my style, I used to fight with a lot of fear in a way, like fear of getting hurt, fear of hurting someone else. I was being driven and pushed by my peers to continue to fight and do better. And so a lot of it was influence. And my own instinct was I couldn't really, motivate myself enough to go in there and do what I do now. So being a cerebral fighter now is something that kind of came from development and experience of having to step in the cage every time and kind of take in everything that's happening. Yeah.
That is actually so interesting to hear because I don't think watching you fight now anyone would ever know that that's how it was in the beginning.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. I was just explaining to a friend earlier, when I got into the UFC, I had only 3 professional fights. I didn't even know how to fight yet, really. I didn't really even know what it was like to compete at the highest level. I just so happened to, spark Dana's interest in him saying okay, this kid's got a bright future. So he saw it before I even did. And so I had to learn. I had to learn how to truly fight. I had to learn how to really be a professional athlete through all the years. So yeah, in the beginning it was a bit of a struggle.
And you did a lot of that learning, like you just said, on the job. The beginning of your UFC career was kind of interesting. You'd have a couple of wins, a couple of losses. You never put huge streaks together. Now you're on a 5-fight win streak, obviously, and finding a lot of success. But where did you know, and how did you know, that maybe things should change up a little bit earlier in your UFC career?
I think after my second fight in the UFC, my second or third fight, there was a fight that I lost by rear naked choke, and one of my coaches kind of analyzed it, and he's like, man, you could have fought out of that, but there was something inside of you that, like, you kind of gave up. Like, you didn't go all the way till the end to get out of that choke. Once it was in, you kind of just gave up. And that was an eye-opener for me. And so I started to address these things emotionally in training, like not being so afraid to get choked out. If I do, the ref's going to be there to wake me up and everything will be fine. So I started to address little things like that around the time, like early on. And that's what helped me start to take those like little baby steps towards just being more comfortable being in the cage. But as far as going on like a 5-fight win streak, I mean, that took a big commitment, and that came immediately after leaving Thailand.
Yeah, and I want to get into Thailand, but I kind of want to go back to what you just mentioned, that there was a little bit of fear, that a referee would be there to wake you up. Was the fear of losing? Was the fear of getting actually physically hurt? Where do you think that resonated?
I think it was a mixture of a lot. I think not necessarily. I think getting hurt was one thing, but fear of going the distance. Like, what that truly means to me now, like going the distance means like you're there every step of the way, win or lose. And like you're fighting until you can't fight anymore. And that's a scary place to go. You hear it in this sport all the time. Like people say like, I'm going to take this guy to deep waters. It's like deep waters are scary, and the further down you go, that it's going to be a while to get back to the top to get air. So I think the biggest fear was like, I just wasn't prepared in those moments to go the distance, and I didn't know what that really meant. So as soon as I saw, okay, this is going to get dark, it scared me. And then everything else was based off of just reaction, however I responded or reacted to it, whether it's tapping out from a choke or just swinging big, hoping that something lands so that I can get the hell out of there.
Are you still scared now and you know how to handle it, or is that fear completely removed?
There are times that fear will arise. I haven't felt it lately in the cage. I'd say the past few years, I haven't felt the fear as much as it used to be. But when it does come up, sometimes it is a reminder. And it's just like, it's a reminder that, yeah, like things can go to a deep place, a dark place, but now because of the work that I've put in and the times that I have explored, going to, these deep waters, I kind of know what to expect, and I have belief in myself now that I can get through it. And if I get lost in the darkness, like say I get like tapped out or something from fighting a choke, then like so be it. I am okay with that now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful mindset that you have. And I want to know how Thailand fit into the mix. When did you know Thailand was the right place to go to, and what actually got you there?
So when I lost the Johnny Walker fight, for one, I wasn't there. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to fight. And I don't think that people actually really know that. And I don't think that a lot of the fans really take into consideration that, like, sometimes when your favorite fighter is going to fight, sometimes they actually don't want to be there. They have to psych themselves up to be there. You never know what's going on in their lives personally, but it's our job and we show up and we do what we need to do. So that was one fight that I knew I just didn't want to be there. I wasn't really prepared. I wasn't in the right space. But after losing that fight, I still watched and analyzed my, what I was doing. And I realized that I got knocked out in the clinch. And when I saw the fight, I saw when he clinched me, I didn't know what to do. I recognized that in myself. I'm like, wow, I was dead in the water. I didn't have anything to respond to that. I just kind of let him pull my head. And I know that clinching is a big part of Muay Thai. So my first decision was like, okay, I'm going to go and learn clinch techniques so that I never feel like I'm lost and don't know what's going on. So that was my decision to go to Thailand. I only planned to go for a month. But when I got there, I was so welcomed, and I saw such a different side of fighting, a very peaceful, humble, respectful side of fighting that I never saw here in my own home. And it encouraged me. Like I saw like, this is the type of fighter I want to be. I want to be able to still smile and still be peaceful, but still be very skillful and win a fight. So yeah, it was pretty life-changing in the beginning.
A month turned into how long?
A month turned into almost 3 years. After my first week of being there, I had a friend who taught me. He's like, hey, if you want to survive here, you got to learn the language. You're going to have to learn what to eat, how to take a taxi, night markets, how to navigate. Like, he told me things are a little bit different here, but if you learn it, like, you'll survive. And so after my first week and kind of doing what he told me, it was a great experience. And I kind of started feeling like I'd never want to leave this place. I was so happy. Everybody was smiling, and it was just a lot more peaceful. I never felt so at home in a place that like wasn't even my home. So
what did that open in you as an athlete then?
As an athlete, well, for one, seeing how the guys in the gym trained, like the Thai fighters that I lived with, seeing how they trained every single day really changed my perspective as well, because they weren't doing anything crazy. They weren't doing stuff that I learned back in America. They were just doing repetition of things every day for months at a time. Run in the morning, come back, 1,000 knees on the bag, pad work, 1 hour of clinch, eat, sleep, do it all over again, sleep, do it all over again. So I just was like, okay, I'm going to adapt. I'm going to do what they're doing. And it just showed me something different about myself. I was operating on more of like a rhythm than like trying to figure out like a puzzle. So once I kind of tapped into that like rhythm of how training goes and how the days go and how the Thais are fighting and living, I just kind of like merged in with them and like followed their like rhythm of life. And then I realized like, wow, like this is the best I've ever felt as a fighter, as an athlete, as a human. And I really liked the person that I was becoming. So I did everything I could to hold on to that.
Do you still take a lot of those principles with you on a daily basis here in Las Vegas?
I believe so. Yeah, there are things and traditions that I've learned. There's stories that I've heard that I do my best to, keep in the forefront of my mind, especially when it's fight time. Things like even just fighting and living with a happy heart. I think that a lot of the times, if we're watching as spectators, we don't see happiness in the fighters. Even if they are, we don't necessarily like see it, but I do my best now to make sure that when I step in the cage, no matter how I feel, no matter how focused I am, I'm still operating from a level of happiness. And that's one thing that I learned from some trainers and fighters that I met there.
A fight that I believe you probably were pretty happy with was the Eryk Anders fight.
Yeah.
Kind of your first fight back after spending some time in Thailand. And honestly, you had the entire sports world talking about that performance. I mean, I just remember everybody being blown away by what you were able to achieve. What did that fight do for you?
Well, that fight for me, it did multiple things. I think for one, it proved to me that I could fight Muay Thai how I was watching it, because in Thailand there weren't guys my size, so I didn't really have the opportunity to test it. Everything we were doing was like play sparring, and I would do my pad work, but that was my first time putting what I was learning to the test. So that's what it taught me. It taught me that I could. And that fight to me was so important because one of my biggest goals was to gain the respect of my trainers and my Thai family, because there was a family that took me in who ran the gym. So I wanted to gain their respect, and I wanted to show them that I can bring Muay Thai to MMA. It's not and I can bring the real version of it, because there are a lot of I guess inauthentic versions of Muay Thai and Muay Thai gyms in America that's like I can go in and I'm like, after being there, it's not really it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so I wanted to prove to them, like, hey, everything you guys taught me, all the time you guys put into me, like, I can put it to work and put it to use and make you guys proud. And so when that happened, I mean, those were the two biggest things, the biggest takeaways from that fight.
What was their reaction?
They were so happy. They were proud. As soon as I got back to Thailand after that fight, they had a lot of great things to say. Everyone, all the fighters in the gym were very happy. They were even like recreating like little moments, you know, and they were like, eh, no, no, no. So it was amazing. That was probably like my favorite, like welcome back, you know, because I knew that they watched it, and I was just happy to come back with that win, happy to come back home with that win. Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
So you had a couple more fights, and then you put together this great 5-fight win streak, 4 TKOs in those 5 victories. What's been the change? What has allowed you to not just win and put things together, but do so in such a dominant fashion?
So I moved back to the USA after COVID in 2021. I had to fight. I mean, the world shut down and no one knew what was happening. But somehow UFC figured out a way to keep us active. Living in Thailand at that time, they told me that if I left the country, like immigration told me, if I left the country, they don't know when I'd be able to come back. And at this time, I'd already settled. I had, you know, my space with my things and my belongings and things that I've collected, and I had no plans on moving back. But because everything shut down and I had to fight and I had to continue to make a living, I had to leave. And so knowing that I had to leave, it was a pretty emotional time for me. I didn't want to, but I had to. So I made a phone call back home, and I called John Wood, and I called my coach Lorenzo, and I told them, hey guys, I'm gonna fight, and chances are I'm coming back to America. John was very welcoming and said, of course you can train back here. And Lorenzo told me, he actually asked me a question. He said, well, okay, yeah, we can train, but what's the goal? What's the purpose? And our relationship is very like that. He plays a, you know, like a father figure type role in my life, but he wanted clarity. He's like, yeah, I'll give you the time. I'll dedicate the time to you, but like, what's the goal? And that caused me to think. And I said, well, like the goal is to become champion. If I have to leave Thailand, if I have to leave my dreams behind, then I'm going to be fully committed. And my goal is to become champion, and that's it. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to hold you to that, because that's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a completely different version of yourself than you were before you left. And even he's like, I've seen what you've done so far, but it's going to take even more. And if you're willing to give that to me and to us, then we're willing to give the same in return. And so it was a mixture of like making the decision that coming back to America, I would give my 100% absolute best and be dedicated to fighting and only fighting and getting the belt. And yeah, because I had to leave Thailand, I had nothing else, you know, here for me. So I was like, I'm going to leave that there, leave that dream there, and I'm going to come back, and I'm just going to get to work until the belt is mine.
Had you addressed that dream with yourself before he asked you that question?
I don't think so. I might have talked with my wife about it, and she's always had like strong belief in me, and I think that that's what's really like helped our relationship in the beginning when we met. She's just like, yo, you can be and you will be like the champion, and she's like, I see it just like you see it. So there were things like conversations like that, but I never really had to answer it honestly to anyone. And Lorenzo is somebody who I respect, so I had to dig down and find like the honest yes to that question, and I did.
So you're getting ready for this massive co-main event at UFC 303, and then you get word there was a tainted supplement.
Yeah, so I was working with, and I sought out a professional company to help me with my nutrition and my vitamins and my levels and everything that I needed to be optimal. And there was a lot of trust there, and there was a lot of professionalism there, but something was given to me, and I and they brought it to my attention at a meeting in my house. Like, they came over, everybody's hanging out, and this thing was on my counter, and they said, well, what's this? Are you taking this? I said, yeah, of course, you guys have given it to me. And he's like, no, you shouldn't be. This is our mistake. This shouldn't have been given to you. And so in that moment, I'm like, what the hell? So I called UFC immediately. So I didn't wait for a positive test to come back. I was told that something was given to me by accident and by their mistake. And so in my mind, I was like, well, the only thing that I can do is call the UFC and alert them immediately. So I did that, and I gave them everything that I needed to give them as far as just like details, and even a letter from the company saying like, hey guys, this was our mistake. And when the UFC retrieved the test and saw it was positive, I mean, in that whole moment and like weeks and months of just dealing with that situation, oh my God, I can't even describe the feelings. It was like I'd lost like the closest family member to me, or, you know, like I lost my wife or something. Like, that's just how I could describe it. My stomach dropped. Everything that I had worked for started to like slowly like fade, because I started to see like this does so much to my image. It does so much to like my career, and like it wasn't even my fault, you know, like, so there's just, yeah, I mean, like, even thinking about it, it gets me very emotional, but I fought through it. Like, that was the thing that I promised myself, is that like, no matter how bad things look on the outside, and no matter how bad this situation is in the moment, I'm going to continue to keep my vision and my eyes on the prize and do what I said I'd commit to doing, and that's getting the belt. So yeah, when I got the call for this fight specifically, I mean, it was like a phone call from God. It was just like, it came at the right time. It came at a very unexpected time, but I was prepared for it. I've been preparing for this.
Where were you and what were you doing when you did actually get that phone call?
I was actually in the middle of a legal mediation with the company that I was working with. So yeah, in that moment, I'm in one room with my attorney, and they're in another room with their attorney, and there's a mediator kind of going back and forth like, guys, how are we going to figure out this situation? How are we going to, you know, end this, you know, in this madness? And it wasn't going too well, and I was just like so defeated. And then my phone rings, and like, of course, the UFC. Hello. What's up, guys? Hey, how's your day going? Terrible. What's up? Well, got good news. You're going to fight Alex on October 5th. And I'm like, I like look over, I'm like, this is not true. So it happened, yeah, in the middle of a legal mediation.
I'd imagine you were a bit emotional.
Very. I didn't even know that it was real. Like, it didn't really settle. Hours later, I'm like, there's no way. Maybe they're working on it, but I'm sure they're going to call and say like, this guy says, you know, no, and whatever other politics. But a couple hours later, I get another phone call from one of the matchmakers, and he's just like, hey man, just wanted to say congratulations. You know, I know how much you wanted this. I know how hard you've been working on. So just wanted to say like, congrats, and, you know, get to work. And at that moment, I thought like, okay, yeah, this is real. Everything that I've been working for is now here, and I'm prepared.
Not just a title shot, not one you've worked for, but one against a guy that is arguably one of the biggest superstars in the UFC right now, a dominant champion at 205. So should you win the belt, man, there's just so many positives that come out of this. Alex Pereira, UFC 307. When you look at him and what he has done thus far in the octagon, he hasn't been in the UFC that long, but he's had a dominant reign. What do you see in him as an opponent?
I see a very skilled, like talented, strong opponent. I see him for everything else that the world sees him as. I mean, yeah, he's been very dominant since he's come into the sport. He's shown everything that he's capable of doing. He's beat the best of the best, you know, Izzy, and Strickland, and so it's like this guy's a tough opponent. But I also see inspiration. Like when I look at this fight, when I see everything that he's been able to accomplish, this fight and this matchup, it excites me. It's an exciting thing, and I think it's because of everything that he's been able to do and everything that he will continue to do. I think the guy's very skilled.
You have this little smile as you're answering about him. And I'm just so curious, because to me that means something else is going through your mind that maybe you don't want to say in this interview, which is fine.
No, I think that the smile comes from like genuine like happiness. That's it. Like, I'm happy to fight this guy. Like that's where the smile comes from.
You should be very happy to fight him, because all your dreams have led to this opportunity for the belt.
Yeah.
What makes you different than anyone Alex has faced?
Wow. It's a little bit difficult for me to say this, but I'm going to do this because I should. What makes me different is my overall ability. Compared to the guys that he's fought, I feel like my strength and my athletic ability and my discipline, my skills, my experience, I think that like all of that kind of plays into me and my style. And I don't think that there's been a fighter that is as like put together as I am and feel now. I've been through a lot, and I've spent my whole career in the UFC, and this is the first time that like I can fully back myself. I don't have to talk. I don't have to, yap, and sometimes it's uncomfortable for me to say like I feel amazing, and like I am 100%, I have belief in myself, and I don't know who can present the same the same stuff that I have right now. Like it's just, I don't know. There's just something that I feel in myself right now, and this like belief and this all the work and the skills that I'm putting in right now that just really bring the surprise.
It seems like that belief has also led to a peace mentally, emotionally, as you enter what is probably going to be the most hectic chapter of your fighting life yet. How does that also give you an advantage as we head into the fight, as we head into fight week and fight night, to know that you believe in yourself, but you're also calm and peaceful about that?
When I think about like, how does it give me an advantage? I can't say like how it will give me an advantage over him, but how it is beneficial to me in my life right now is that I have nothing to be afraid of. I have nothing to be sad about. I have nothing to be angry about. Like, this is the moment and the time that I've been working for. So I think for me, like, the advantage is like I just really get to soak this in, like I just get to enjoy all of this. I get to enjoy it all. I get to, look back at the road that I took to get here and appreciate it. And so I don't know if it gives me the advantage in the fight and if that makes me any, better or not, but all I know is that this is the coolest moment in my life, and no one can take that from me.
Listen, we cannot wait for this matchup. For those of us who will be on the outside of this, there are so many questions. There's so many differing opinions, a lot of which from the experts in the field are very positive for you. I'm curious just what your thoughts are on a straight kickboxing matchup here with Alex. We see that's often where he gets things done inside the octagon. I mean, for you, what does it look like? We see you two go toe-to-toe kickboxing. What do we got?
I'm going to say what it looks like from the other side of the screen. So like if I were looking through a screen at the people watching, everyone's on the edge of their seats. Everyone is waiting for what's going to happen. They're going to see two of, the most skilled strikers in light heavyweight division right now, like fighting for everything. I mean, even his story, right? So there's so many, like there's so much to this fight, not only skills, but it's like just who we are as people and how we've gotten to this point. So I just see it as an amazing striking match that every UFC fan that loves just like a banger of a fight is going to appreciate regardless of the outcome.
Salt Lake City is in for such a treat, as are, of course, everyone who will be watching at home. I've got to ask you before we wrap up the fight chat, you told Joe Rogan something about, a special sweep you've been working on or something. I mean, I don't know if you want to give us more details because obviously, Joe Rogan podcast, small audience. Yeah. Here we are, Do you want to maybe tell us a little more? Is that true? Were you being serious about like, hey, I have something that maybe has never been seen before?
I definitely do have something that has never been seen before, ever. When I was talking to Joe and I told him that, like, yeah, I have plans to do this hopefully in my next fight, at that time I didn't know that I'd be fighting Alex. I was still like, I don't know when I'm going to fight. I don't know who I'm going to fight next. There are guys in the division that I can see it working on 100%. There could be a possibility of this happening, of this move, this technique happening. There could be, yeah. I mean, like, it's definitely possible. Am I hunting for it? No. If it presents itself, everyone will know, like, oh, that's it. Like, that's what he was talking about.
I love it. I also lied to you. I have one more question here.
Okay.
Are you going into this fight with Alex with a specific game plan? Are you going in it where see what is given to us, or this is exactly how we're going to approach it? Like, what will be your thought process, in October at UFC 307 for this main event?
I 100% have a game plan. 100%. For me to go into this fight and not have a game plan would not be smart at all. So yes, I do have a game plan. I do have things that I am working on specifically in hopes that, it provides the number one outcome, which is me winning and getting the belt. So yeah, sticking to the plan. I don't plan to freestyle this fight at all.
That's a good choice. Khalil, there was a video that's kind of gone a little bit viral on TikTok and Instagram, and it's another really open, candid, emotional moment for you where you talk about being a young man who was at this point unhealthy in terms of weight and cigarettes, and you were driving on the 15 and you would see these UFC billboards and you just hoped one day that you would get on them. What would you tell that young man now?
Oh, man. What would I tell him? Wow, I don't know. I'd say, like, get ready. like, lace up your boots. It's going to take a lot of work, but, like, it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if. It's, like, it's going to happen. So, like, get ready, because it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't. And when I would drive past, I didn't know that it would be like this soon, or I didn't even know that it would even be possible. But yeah, I'd look at that version of myself and just like how I am now, like smiling and be like, man, get ready, because like it's there and it's gonna happen. And I'm so happy now that it is gonna happen, and I can't wait for that moment, because that's a huge like bucket list thing that's like, wow, a dream really does become a reality, and it can become a reality. And I get to watch it unfold and hopefully have my loved ones with me to see it.
You changed your life. You did all the work that comes to that moment. October 5th, UFC 307, the main event against Alex Pereira. What would it mean for you to have that belt wrapped around your waist on that night?
Wow. What would it mean to me? It would mean to me that life can change. It would mean to me that like I actually did change my life. I did change my life how I said I would and how I wanted to. And everyone else can too if you want, like if you feel like there's nothing out there for you, there is. You just got to find it, and you have to dedicate yourself to it. Not only that, but it means that I get to bring a belt back to Las Vegas, like the home of the UFC. I get to be one of the first, besides Frank Mir, to be like a homegrown UFC champion. I would love to use that to do something for the city. I'd love to do something around the city and reach out to the teenagers that were like me at 18, 19 years old who don't know what there is to offer, and maybe just offer some perspective and say like, hey, you know, it doesn't have to be fighting, but there's something that can change your life drastically in like the blink of an eye, you know, in short time. I'd love to do something that involves introducing MMA and martial arts to high schools and middle schools and stuff. I really do want to do something that gives back to the kid that was very similar to me, you know, and I do want to do it here. I want to do it in Las Vegas, the city that raised me and taught me everything and that put me through some of the hardest times, but also like as a UFC fighter, an homage to the UFC, like, guys, thank you for opening your doors, for believing in me and giving me a stage to really like test myself and build myself and share it with, you know, share it with a place I call home. Yeah.
Spoken like a true champion. Khalil, October 5th, UFC 307 against Alex Pereira. Best of luck to you in your quest to become a world champion. We cannot wait for this fight. And of course, thank you to Lotus of Siam here in Red Rock for the beautiful scenery. This is an absolutely gorgeous, very fitting interview set for you. We appreciate your time. Go out there and have fun.
Thank you.